So my name is Carl Miller, and I'm the Research Director at the Centre for the Analysis of Social Media at the think tank Demos. The digital world has brought us closer to both utopia and dystopia at exactly the same moment. Both amazing and terrible things happening to society and all of us all the time, more than ever before. That is, in fact, actually, I think at least, the nature of the digital revolution that we're living through. Power is both swirling to the outmost edges of society and finding all these new forms, and it's also concentrating at exactly the same moment as well. What's really happening to power is it has gone wild. So whether it's distributing or whether it's concentrating, it now exists in ways which kind of through tech are camouflaged. They're in shadows, they're overlooked, they're ignored, they're misunderstood, and that means it's simply not being controlled, either through laws or regulations or public scrutiny or professional standards or anything, in the ways that we are used to controlling power in the past. So power's both going to liberate and it's going to destroy lives, for sure. The main question is power itself going to be civilized and tamed? Will it be put into new kinds of cages, new kinds of laws and regulations, or not? That is the question, I think, which will define the nature of what we're living through now and the lives that we're going to have in the future. I mean, the commercial world, companies have been utterly at the forefront of many of the changes that we've seen. They kind of build and promote and use the technologies which themselves have transformed power so much. Either companies, I think, can try and themselves be part of the solution to cage power or not. And in fact, they probably are the decisive voice in whether that's actually going to happen. So in a sense, companies like CSR or social responsibility, whatever, has to itself completely evolve. There's all these new issues which companies, I think, can act on, whether it's the commitments they make to consumers about addictive tech, whether it's the environmental consequences of the tech that they use themselves, all of that has to completely change. There's always a connection between power and purpose. Power means you have to have a purpose, and having a purpose gives you power. But for companies specifically, I think the kind of like the question or the trick here is defining your purpose, or like the values that you have that are leading edge rather than following. So I think too often companies kind of feel like they need to have values which are really safe, which kind of go in the flow of wider societal currents, whereas actually companies are the best placed people to define the new areas which they need to put morality and rules and laws around. Right now we're seeing the collision of two massively important ideas. Open source, which has long existed on the internet, open knowledge, of which Wikipedia is their most precious and important creation, but headlong into that it's colliding the rising power of states and geopolitics online. It's not clear which of these two sets of values or interests or concerns or anxieties will really win, but right now they are colliding, I think, and beginning to kind of entangle and in fact do battle in lots of different parts of the internet. I think that the open source community and indeed online subcultures have long viewed the internet to be something which exists outside of states, in fact outside of the material world. You know, the home of mind, as John Perry Barlow put it in the Declaration of Cyberspace Independence, where you weary giants of flesh and steel, states have no sovereignty where we gather. It was considered to be a separate space. And I think that has meant that for most of the existence of the internet and many of the people that have built it, they haven't really engaged or I think been concerned that states are projecting power on the internet. Well, clearly now the internet is too important for states to ignore. And I think that the open source community is probably quite belatedly waking up to this kind of threat.